training, and now we've come to the point where we've launched our test campaigns and we're ready to enter in the optimization and hopefully scaling phases of our ads. If we've done all of the homework up until now, we've gone through, we've done our research, we've figured out which audiences we think are going to respond well, we've created our sample image ads, created the right ad copy, so on and so forth. And this section or this training may be the most important part of the entire Facebook ads training. Because if you're able to effectively optimize and scale your test campaigns, that's going to be the quickest way to drive massive course sales, the massive success that you came into this program wanting. So what we're going to cover are some best practices when it comes to optimizing your ads and then knowing when to scale or turn up the volume or turn up the budget. What do we look for within our clients' campaigns? What are the key metrics that matter? What are some of the optimization benchmarks you should be looking for? And then when it comes to scaling your ads, what's the most intelligent way to do that so that you're taking incremental steps and not necessarily, you can still make some, believe it or not, once you've got a campaign fully optimized, if you don't scale it the right way, you can still create problems for yourself. So let's dive right into it with the first part of this program, which is optimization and optimization basics. First things first, we covered it way back when we talked about Facebook pixels, but I'm assuming you've properly installed Facebook pixels onto your website. If you don't, there's no way that you're going to be able to track how many conversions you've gotten, how many lead magnets you've gotten, how many calls you've scheduled, all of that type of stuff. And all of this data that we're going to look at is predicated on you having that information at the ready. Second thing is, we don't want to get too emotional about this. Best in class Facebook experts treat this like a science project. Let's purely look at the data without getting too emotional about which ads work and which don't. And I spent all this time on this ad copy. If you just look at the numbers, it's going to tell you which ads may be not performing very well or which ads are performing optimally. And again, it's not theoretical anymore. We're now using Facebook's data and Facebook's users to tell us in real time what our audience is responding to. And that's really the point. That's the bottom line, is simply to get enough data, enough information, enough numbers to understand what parts of our campaign are working well and which ones need to be optimized a little further or deleted altogether. From that, in order to get to that point, you need to know your numbers, what I call know your numbers. Within your lead magnet or within your funnel, there are some essential numbers and percentages that you need to know. And if you have a good grasp on those, you could start to pinpoint what things are working well and what numbers are maybe too high for it to be profitable for you. So let's say that your funnel looks like this. You get leads from Facebook, you then drive them to a lead magnet. From the lead magnet, you have them book a call, and from the call, you close a sale. From that, you would need to know, one, what's your cost per lead from Facebook? How much am I spending? Is it $15 a lead, $20 a lead, $30 a lead? How much am I spending per lead from Facebook? What is my conversion rate from lead magnet to call? So if 20 people or if 20 people get my lead magnet, what percentage of those are going to book a call with me? Is it 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 10 out of 10? Obviously, the higher the better. And then what percentage of the people that I talk to on the phone will actually purchase my course? 1 in 5, 1 in 10? How, all of these numbers have impact on the ROI and the percentages that we're about to take a look at. So let's go through and show a couple of examples here and how knowing your numbers have a big bearing on what we're going to look at within our Facebook accounts. So let's say, for example, that my sale, or my rather course, I'm charging $5,000 for that. And then if I know my numbers or I know my percentages going into this, I can start to make some intelligent optimizations. Let's say that I know that I can get $10 leads, $10 cost per lead from my Facebook ads. And then of that, if I get 200 leads, I know that 50% of those or 100 of those are now going to attend, say, my webinar or get my attend my lead magnet. So from those 100 people in the lead magnet, I know that 1 in 10 of those are going to book an appointment or schedule a call with me. Now I know 1 out of 10 of those people that I talk to on the phone, I have a 10% close rate. So I know 1 out of 10 of those will download my course or become a client. Well, given the above ratios, I know that it's going to cost me $2,000 for 1 new client. And if my course is $5,000, that's going to net me $3,000 in profit. That's better than 2-to-1 ROI on my ad spend. So this is worth it for me. So again, $10 leads, 50% go to my lead magnet. 10% of those become phone calls, and then 10% of those become clients. I can quickly and easily see what my threshold is. Can I afford to spend more than $10 per lead? Absolutely. In fact, let's take a look at another example. If, for instance, I use those same exact ratios, but my leads, for instance, are $20, now I'm still profitable, but I'm spending $4,000 to acquire a new customer. So I've got a 20% profit margin. So as I'm going through and I'm looking at my ad accounts, I'm looking for which ads, which audiences are getting me closer to this $10 cost per lead situation rather than this $20 cost per lead situation. Obviously, anything above this $20 cost per lead may not be worth it for me to continue on with. So those are going to be things that I take a look at and either try and optimize to get better than $10 cost per lead, or I may just want to pause it altogether and start scaling up this campaign with a $10 cost per lead. But in order to get to that point, I have to know all of these numbers. So that's the first thing I want you to do is before you start optimizing, is go through this exercise and understand what your threshold is. What is your profitability for leads? How much can I pay Facebook and still be profitable for 1 lead? And then if you go through and you know the rest of these percentages, you're going to have an easy time with the rest of this program. As a rule of thumb, some of you may be asking, okay, well, what's a CPL or what's an acceptable cost per lead that I should be going at? That totally depends. If we go back to this example, if your course only costs $1,000, well, then this CPL of $20 is going to be way above what you can afford. So it depends on what your funnel is, what your ratios are, and ultimately how much you're charging for your course. However, at a high level, we typically want to get a sub $15 cost per lead when we're starting. Anything higher than that, we can consider optimizing or deleting. Anything lower than that, we want to continue to refine and then eventually scale. So what does that look like? Or, if you're looking for just a turnkey sort of guide for when to optimize or when to take action, one thing you got to realize is you've got to give it enough time and give it enough impressions before you make any sort of changes. If you get 100 impressions and no one clicks, don't think that that's the end of the world. That's just not enough time, not enough data for Facebook to do enough learning and for your audience to really respond to your message. So I like to say at least 1,000 impressions, and I like to give it a couple of days, honestly, before I make any sort of judgments on my Facebook campaigns. But given that, one thing that I'm looking for is a CPL of about $15. And so we use this kind of red, yellow, green diagram here, where anything with a CPL right out of the gate after 1,000 impressions of $20 or more, let's just pause that ad or pause that ad set altogether. There's just too much work that needs to be done. I mean, you could try tweaking things or whatnot, but that should tell you that things are not working optimally for that ad set. If, however, you're in that $12 to $20 range, let's try and duplicate that ad or that ad set and try a different image. Things are working good, but there may be room for improvement. So if it's maybe the $12 to $15 CPL, I might leave it as is. If it's like 15 to 20, I'm probably going to take the action there on the right. Let's duplicate the ad set, test a new image, and pause the original one, and let's see if we get better results with a new image and drive that CPL down. Last but not least, if it's under $12 CPL, like if you have $5, $6, $7 cost per leads, that should work for most of the courses that we're setting up here. I mean, that should be party time where you want to drive as many people at that $5 CPL or $7 CPL as you can. And that's where you would actually want to move on to the scale phase. And you see a couple of suggestions there when you scale your ad. Don't just throw all of your budget at the campaign. If you go from $100 a day, don't throw the floodgates open to $1,000 a day. Don't 10x your budget like that. Instead, you want to scale intelligently. An intelligent way to scale is maybe increase your budget by 15% each day. But first, you want to make sure that you get consistent results. You want to make sure you're getting those sub $12 CPLs for 3 days first. So on Monday, you get sub 12 CPLs. By Wednesday, you can start scaling by 15%. Then Thursday, scale another 15%. Friday, scale another 15%, so on and so forth, as long as those results at the CPL level stay consistent. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of knowing when and how to optimize your ads. So let's go through a couple of tips when you're actually making changes. So you know by the numbers now when you need to make a change and where you need to make a change. Now let's talk about what changes you actually need to take a look at. When you're optimizing your ads, I always say test the image first. The image is usually the number one factor that gets people to stop, take notice, and either take the time to read and react to your ad, or if it's not enough of a pattern interrupt, they'll just skip right over it. So I always like to say keep the text the same, the copy the same, and try a different image first. Use that same audience with different images, and then the thing you want to keep an eye on is your click-through rate. You should see an increase in click-through rate if you've chosen the right image. If they're getting the same click-through rate, that image is probably not working good enough. The other thing you want to do is not just show one ad to your audience. You want to test several ads at the same time, and then align whatever ad copy it is to your target market. But if you're running one ad at a time, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Use A/B testing or ABC testing and run 2 to 3 ads and in that ad set to that same audience. And then after a couple of days or a week, take a look at which ad is getting you the best CPL or cost per lead, and then start to optimize from there. And that's a big deal because your cost per lead is a direct reflection of your cost per click. And if you take a look at the bottom there, you can see how just by getting a better, slightly better cost per click makes a huge difference in your cost per lead. If you get $3 cost per click at a 20% conversion rate, you're looking at a $15 cost per lead. That would say, in that situation, we would say continue to optimize or test out new images. But if you're getting a $2 cost per click at the same conversion rate, you're at a $10 CPL, and we'd actually tell you to recommend a scale at that level. So cost per click and click-through rate are incredibly important. The higher your click-through rate, the more relevant it is, and the lower your cost per click should be. So really keep an eye on that. But those are just a couple of quick optimization tips when you're looking for what to change at this phase. A couple of things to note as well: if you are looking at your campaigns or your ad sets and your click-through rate is low, chances are you're too broad with your audience. So I would say go back and dial in your audience a little bit more and refine it. So add some more interests, or maybe restrict the age or restrict the demo a little bit, and let's see if that has a positive effect on the click-through rate. Two is, let's say you look at your campaigns and you're not getting enough clicks. If you're not getting enough clicks and you're leaving budget on the table every day, you're not maximizing your budget, chances are it's the image. That image may be not enough of a pattern interrupt. And so you may want to try, like I mentioned before on the previous slide, try 2 or 3 different images and see if that gets the click-through rate up, see if that gets you more clicks and more interest and more leads. All right, once you've gone through that optimization phase and you've reached a threshold with your cost per lead that you are happy with, that works for that know your numbers exercise, it is party time, my friends. Now you're getting sales. It's time to scale your ads, and this is the fun part. First things first, though, is make sure you are getting sales first. Do not just 10x your budget or do not scale your budget before you actually start getting some sales. Why? Because just because you're getting leads or people to download your lead magnet or show up to your webinar or schedule calls with you does not mean that they're necessarily the right leads. You may still need to do some optimization and tweaking of things in order to go from lead to sale. So make sure above and beyond that you're getting the right leads first and you're getting sales. Provided you're getting sales at those optimal CPLs, now it's when you can actually start turning things up. Because if you're getting a $10 CPL at a $100 budget, you'll still get a $10 CPL at a $1,000 budget. But again, follow my advice and don't just do that. Don't just 10x your budgets, but increase your budget by 15% each day. And as you're increasing your budget by that 15% each day, keep a close eye on those CPLs. If at any point, for some reason, you're targeting too broad of an audience, or for some reason, as you increase it, the CPLs go above the threshold from the Know Your Numbers exercise, stop. Do not continue increasing your budget if it's not profitable for you. But as long as it's profitable and as long as it fits that Know Your Numbers exercise, keep increasing 15% day over day until you've maximized the entire potential for that audience. Like I said, everybody, that takes us to that. Like I said, everybody, that is that's kind of the intelligent way to go about optimizing and scaling your campaigns. And man, I'm telling you, this is really fun when you get it to this level. Seeing the numbers go up, seeing the amount of leads that you're gathering, and having people schedule time with you that want your product or want your course is what this is all about, and this is the way to do it. In terms of final recommendations when it comes to Facebook advertising, I'd say really take your time with this and have fun with this. Treat this like a science project and fall in love with the process of looking at your ads, tweaking your ads, changing things up. The more you get good at this, the more you practice this, the more you fall in love with this process, the better you'll get with it, the more in tune with your target market you'll get, and the better results that you'll get. If you go through all of this and this is just not for you, or you find that this is way too much of a chore or a bore, or you just can't fall in love with this process, do not ignore this part, because this is one of the most important part of scaling your course sales. At that point, you may want to have a conversation with yourself about hiring somebody or hiring a third party that could manage your Facebook ads for you. We could potentially even give you some recommendations when it comes to that. But that wraps up the Facebook portion of this course clients training. I hope you guys got a ton of value out of it. Go back and rewatch these modules as needed. But I wish you guys best of luck as you create your ads, and I wish you guys nothing but massive success. And I want to hear your success stories in the course clients portal and on the Facebook group. Talk to you guys soon.